Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lisa Hsin with REL Southwest. We're excited to have you join us today for our session, which is called English Proficiency and the Pandemic: Where are English learner students' language and literacy skills now? Before we get started, I'd like to share an overview of today's event. So to get us started, I'll introduce our presenters and speak a bit about REL Southwest. And then Dr. Melissa Castillo will provide some opening remarks, and then we'll share information about 2 research studies. We'll have a quick Q&A, and then we'll transition into a discussion with our esteemed guests about what is going on in their locations. And finally, we'll close out the webinar with a question and answer session to discuss questions that you as the audience have about supporting English learner students in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. As the webinar progresses, please type your questions for the presenters into the chat box for the question and answer sessions. And then at the end of the webinar, we'll present our stakeholder feedback survey link, and it will be sent to all webinar attendees via email afterward. This feedback is very important, and it helps us improve for future events. So the goals for this webinar today are to first share research on the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on English language proficiency test scores of English learner students, to discuss implications for English learner students, their families, teachers, and schools, and to hear from practitioners about their understanding of where students are and how to help them continue to improve. I'm excited to welcome our experts today. First, we have Dr. Melissa Castillo, a senior advisor for the U.S. Department of Education in their Office of English Language Acquisition. Myself, Dr. Lisa Hsin, I'm a senior researcher with the REL Southwest at the American Institutes for Research. My colleague, Dr. David Osman, who is the Director of Research and Evaluation at Gibson Consulting Group. He and I co-authored the REL Southwest research report that we'll share in a moment. Narek Sahakyan is a researcher at WIDA and the lead author of the WIDA research report. Narek's co-author is Poole, a graduate research assistant at WIDA. And then we have 2 practitioner colleagues who will join us for the panel: Irma Guerra, who is a coordinator of instructional services on the bilingual ESL and languages LOTE team at the Region 20 Education Service Center, or ESC, in Texas. And Emily Key, who is a current principal of Kirtland Elementary School in Albuquerque Public Schools in New Mexico, and she was previously the director of English learner programs in that district as well. So we'll move to sharing a bit about REL Southwest. The Regional Educational Laboratory Southwest, or REL Southwest, is part of a network of 10 regional educational laboratories that are funded by the U.S. Department of Education's Institute of Education Sciences, or as you probably have heard of it referred to as IES. REL Southwest works with stakeholders across our region to meaningfully improve student outcomes. And we conduct this work in partnership with education stakeholders in the 5 states in our region: Arkansas, Louisiana, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Texas. REL Southwest conducts this work primarily through collaborative research partnerships with districts, state education agencies, policymakers, and others in our region. And these partnerships focus on high leverage education issues that our partners or others in the field have identified as priorities. So with that, I'd like to invite Dr. Castillo to turn on her video, please, and to talk to us from the U.S. Department of Education.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Melissa Castillo. I am a senior advisor here in the Office of the Secretary and the Office of English Language Acquisition. I'm really excited to be here with you all today and share in my opening remarks some of what's happening here at the department, specifically to support our English learners and create pathways to multilingualism for all. So I'm going to start with what we've heard from around the country over the past 2 years. We knew that it was really important to listen to our students, our educators, and our families, especially during the time of the pandemic and of course after. We understood the importance of determining even more what it is our students were going to need as a result of what they experienced during the pandemic, specific to their education opportunities and experiences. So we heard that students, educators, and families want to know and feel like they belong. And this is something that is consistent in the messaging that we heard throughout the pandemic, as a result of the pandemic, and even before the pandemic. We also know that families want research, evidence-based, rigorous, well-rounded, minds-on and hands-on education for their children, including pathways that lead to post-secondary learning and career options, and of course, also this idea of multilingualism. We also know that if any of this is going to happen, and as a result of the pandemic, we're even in more critical need of eliminating the shortage of highly qualified educators and student support staff. And finally, we know that educators in schools can accelerate learning, and it's something that we know is especially important as a result of the pandemic. But we also knew before the pandemic that the students that we are speaking of today really needed us to pay attention to their learning trajectories and accelerate their opportunities for language acquisition as well as literacy development. And along with this, we know that our families, our students, our educators are asking us to ensure that learning be something that students really enjoy, that it's a place where they feel like they belong, that they can be successful, and of course, that we are meeting their needs as well as their educators' needs. So on January of this year, Dr. Miguel Cardona, our Secretary of Education, announced the department's Raise the Bar, Lead the World initiative, which includes 3 very important focus areas that you can see on this slide. The first one is achieving academic excellence. And what he's asked us to pay very close attention to and really direct the work that we're doing is, again, that need to accelerate learning for every student and to really think about what this means in particular for some of our students that have been most underserved and marginalized, which is the group, one of the groups that we're talking about here today, which is our English learners. We also, under our Achieve Academic Excellence, are focusing in on ensuring that we're delivering a comprehensive and rigorous education. Under our Boldly Improve Learning Conditions, our focus is to, again, eliminate the educator shortage for every school. And we're also being mindful of the fact that this is not just our teachers, but this is our leaders, this is our support staff, these are our bus drivers, these are our district staff, as well as site level staff, that we know that we have a critical shortage across the board and that everybody involved in every part of the system has an impact on students' experiences and overall outcomes in school. Under this goal area, we also are focusing in on investing in every student's mental health and their well-being. And as we're thinking about student mental health and well-being to address their academic needs, we're also thinking about the mental health and well-being of the adults that are responsible for them on a daily basis. Because we know when we have healthy teachers, we have happy teachers. When we have happy teachers, we have students that are provided what they need in terms of learning and opportunities. And then we have happy children and healthy children when it comes to their mental well-being as well as their academic success. And then finally, where I'm going to spend my short time with you is really under creating pathways for global engagement. The first area here is to ensure that every student has a pathway to college and career, and then provide every student with a pathway to multilingualism. Next slide, please. So, under the Office of English Language Acquisition, we have been charged with focusing on the Secretary's priority area around providing every student with a pathway to multilingualism. So we've identified 3 key levers to really pull in our work that we believe really aligns and moves his vision around providing a pathway to multilingualism for every student. We know that first and foremost, we want to center the students, again, that we're talking about here today, and that's our English learners. And that if we're going to do this, we have to ensure that there's equitable access for our English learners to those programs that recognize their language as an asset, they value it, they expand on their language while they're learning English. It's also important to remember that we had much work to do in this area pre-pandemic, and we know that that's only been exacerbated as a result of the pandemic. So it's important that as we're having conversations around English learners and what we've identified their areas of need to be, that we're also thinking about their areas of strength and what perhaps we weren't addressing pre-pandemic that is something we still need to address post-pandemic, and what else is it that we need to pay attention to. We also must do everything necessary to ensure English learners are headed down a trajectory of academic achievement by ensuring that their civil rights are met, and that our stakeholders in the field understand their ethical and moral responsibility for ensuring that we're providing them equitable access to high quality education opportunities. For our second lever, diversifying bilingual and multilingual educator workforce, we know that if this is going to happen, if we're really going to meet the needs of our English learners and do so in a way that leads to positive outcomes for our students, that we have to diversify our bilingual and our multilingual educator workforce. We, along with everybody else at the department and really as a whole, and something we see as a shared responsibility, are working diligently to provide technical assistance and funding opportunities to build the educator workforce capacity. We're working on disseminating information about evidence-based state and local programs such as Grow Your Own, teacher residencies, and apprenticeship programs that are really focused on addressing the teacher educator shortage and really creating those pipelines for future educators that can, again, help meet the needs of not only our English learners, but of all of our students, tied to the Secretary's vision of multilingualism for all. And then finally, for that third lever, quality bilingual education for all, we want to make sure that there's quality education that really encompasses and understands the value of teaching students in more than one language. We not only have to increase high quality language programs for our English learners, but really we need to see this as an opportunity to do so for all. Again, I think it's important that I punctuate that we understand and very clearly have centered our English learners in this work. We believe they come to school with beautiful languages that many want to learn, that they have valuable cultural experiences that we can benefit from as a nation as a whole, and that we know that if we lean into those and leverage those, we'll not only see a positive impact for our English learners, but we will then have the opportunity to create those pathways for other students to also become bilingual and biliterate. Next slide. So as educators, I'm sure that you can relate to the fact that we always try to ground ourselves in the why and why this is really important. So not only was it important to respond to what students, educators, and families were telling us they wanted from us and what they needed, but the research has also been quite clear in helping us make our day-to-day decisions on the work that we're doing around multilingualism and centering our English learners. And so we know that our English learners are currently the fastest growing population. We also know that the number of people who speak a language other than English has tripled in recent decades. We also know, unfortunately, that indigenous languages spoken in the US today are most at risk and in danger of becoming extinct. And so when we're thinking about our English learners, we want to think about our diversified group of students who are part of our English learner population. And as of 2019 specifically, and we can only expect that this number has gone up and drastically so, but we had identified 5.1 million English learners enrolled in our nation's public elementary and secondary schools. We also know that adults who are multilingual have access to better jobs and higher pay. There have been studies done, for example, in California, where employees who speak more than one language on average earn about $2,200 more a year. And in Florida, those that have been identified as speaking English as well as Spanish on average earn about $7,700 more a year. And these are really important numbers to think about and consider, especially as we're thinking about the importance and the relevancy of not only addressing the needs of our English learners because it's the right thing to do, and we should ethically, again, and morally meet our responsibilities in doing so. But we also know that if we, again, lean into and leverage the beautiful languages that they come to school with while we're teaching them English, we not only set them down a trajectory that really leads to positive academic outcomes, but also lead to opportunities once they leave our systems in post-secondary or college and career. And finally, again, students who come to school, we can speak all day about the fact that those who come to school with a language other than English come with many assets, beautiful cultures, and funds of knowledge that should be tapped into as we work with them each and every day. Next slide. And just to share some more with you, if I could go back to the last slide, thank you, I apologize. Again, just want to reinforce the cognitive, the academic, and the social, cultural benefits for our students becoming bilingual and biliterate, or multilingual and multiliterate. And then, as you can see in those last two bullets, again, this isn't only good for kids, it's good for the communities they live in, the states they live in, the country that we live in, and of course, those that we engage with globally. Okay, next slide. So along with these three levers that I shared with you in previous slides, we also have identified 4 very specific areas where we are providing guidance, technical support, professional learning opportunities in our Office of English Language Acquisition. The first one is family engagement. We understand that engaging our families has huge impact on what happens with our students, and that we really want to do that as early as possible. We know the largest percentage of our English learners are in our elementary schools, so engaging parents early on is really important, and then putting an emphasis on developmental skills and how those impact language acquisition as well as literacy during those early learning years is also something that we're prioritizing. With that, we hope that engaging our families and starting early in our focus on language and literacy, that we're doing so in high quality language programs such as dual language immersion. And then finally, we hope all of this leads to something that we know now is not only being recognized at the secondary level, but at the post-secondary level and in some of those career fields, is that we hope our students, especially those that already come with a language other than English, will have the opportunity to take courses, participate in programs that lead to the seal of biliteracy. Okay, next slide. And so I would be remiss to not share with you where you can find some of the wonderful resources that we've created and that we've disseminated across the country. If you go to our ELLs website, you will find a plethora of research, fact sheets, infographics, current webinars, trainings, things that really support the field in better understanding their English learners, the needs of their English learners, how they might meet those needs, and then again, thinking about not only our English learners, but this opportunity to also provide pathways to multilingualism for all. Next slide. And on this slide, you'll just see some examples of what you'll find on that website. And what I'm most proud of our repository, is what we call it, is that we have many of our resources in multiple languages. You'll find the benefits of multilingualism in 5 languages, in English, in Spanish, in Arabic, in Chinese, in Somali, and I believe now Portuguese, actually, so it's 6 languages. We also have a newcomer toolkit that recently came out, which really, we know that we've had a lot of recent arrivals to our country and that their needs, of course, are very different from students that have already been in school with us for some time. And so this toolkit gives some great strategies, resources, things, considerations in order to better plan for and meet the needs of our newcomers. And on Thursday, I'm excited to announce that our English Learner Family Toolkit will come out. And it is also going to come out in multiple languages, as well as with an app that can be downloaded on an Android device or an Apple device, so that our parents have access to it in multiple ways. And finally, you can see that we will be having a webinar on our English language family toolkit on December 5th. So we would love to see you there, and more to come on that. And you'll be receiving information on that if you go to that Encella website and register yourself to receive our newsletter and emails. And with that, on our last slide, I would just love to say thank you for all you do each and every day in meeting the needs of our English learners, making sure we're paying attention to who they are, why they're important, and really elevating the beauty that they bring each and every day to our classrooms. My email is on the slide. If there's anything I can support you with, any other questions, comments that you would like to share with me, please do so at melissa.castillo@ed.gov. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Melissa. We're really fortunate to get to hear your perspective on the opportunities that we in the education community have to cultivate multilingualism and positive outcomes for all students in the U.S.